Yay, I'm so excited to have on the podcast today Nyasha and Kenda. And the reason I'm having you two on the podcast is because kind of randomly, I came across a book reading that Nyasha was doing for a book called Saturday Magic, which is a really beautiful children, but also all ages story, I feel like, about a little girl moving through her day, and it introduces aspects of Hoodoo and ancestral veneration. And so I really resonated with that. And you shared that you actually had co-authored and worked with this um, story with your mother-in-law, Kenda, and we just decided to talk about it because I am so curious and I want to hear more just about the process, about like the cultural background, the spiritual background, about each one of you, because you both have so much more going on in addition to just this book. There's so much like creativity and medicine. So let's start. I don't know who wants to go first to introduce themselves, but oh, you pointed, but I can't. So my screen is different than yours. My screen is different than yours. So are you pointing to Nyasha? Nyasha, do you want to introduce yourself? Love it.
Sure. So thanks for having us. I'm Nyasha Williams. Um, I identify as a lot of things, but I think most recently the word that has resonated the most is a weaver. So I have been doing a lot of community building and community connection and collaboration with and in community towards the world we believe in, trying to build that world. So anything that I'm doing, I say that I'm working towards the world that our ancestors deserved and future children need. And that's the place I sit. And I will pass off to my mother-in-law or my mom. Very thankful for her being in this space and just also having her as a mentor and elder and guide on my spiritual walk down here.
Ooh, can we also, I forgot to ask if we could do this. Are you guys okay sharing your sun, moon, and rising? Because I'm actually curious about Kenda's, and I think I remember yours. Oh, well, I know you're an Aquarius sun.
Yeah.
Cancer moon?
So for westernized astrology, Aquarius sun, I'm a Cancer moon and I'm a Leo rising.
Okay,
And in Vedic, I'm a Capricorn sun, a Gemini moon, and a Leo rising.
okay, cool. I love it. Okay.
Okay. Well, welcome to my crazy world of a Gemini sun, a Capricorn moon, which are polar opposite, and a Leo rising. So wow. It's complicated.
I love it.
Um, I am a spiritual nutritionist and author. And I journeyed with this with my daughter in love, my daughter. When she asked me to do this, I was like, "Oh, I've never written a children's book. I am an Essence best-selling author of a fiction book called For Every Love There Is a why am I stuttering today? For every love there is a reason." And so I have been published, but a children's book, um, it seems so complicated because she has written the most beautiful books that have so much depth. And for her to ask me to help her to write this about hoodoo, I was intimidated, but it was a great time to really show magic in its simplest form, but also in a beautiful, multi-layered way. And we'll talk about that more. That's that's me.
Yay. Okay, so Gemini sun, Capricorn moon. So we're all Leo risings, by the way, because I'm also Leo rising. We have 3 Leo risings.
Mm.
Stars. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so it sounds like with Saturday Magic, and tell me if I'm right, Nyasha, you're kind of one of the big driving motivations behind it was to kind of introduce or showcase hoodoo. Is that right?
So it kind of all started with my mother-in-law and I wanting to write some spiritual books, like in reflection of like our practices and the way we've been moving. So the first thought was doing some books around the specific deities we work with. We were thinking Oshun, Yemeya, but then we were like, well, let's just start with ancestral veneration because that's where you should begin anyway. And so that is where the shift and ancestral veneration is so entwined with hoodoo that it all links and yeah, it's very much in conjunction with each other. And so we kind of walked through a day in the life thinking about our own spiritual practices. So Kenna kind of thought about what they do, and we wrote a list of like different things we do and like what should we bring forth into the book that is leaning into everyday spiritual things we do at home. Like I literally smoked out my house today. I did too strong. And I had to open the windows. My cat had to go, and I had to go outside on the balcony and the porch for a bit. But I did smoke out my house today. And we are feeling good. So energetically, the house is feeling great. But yeah, I hadn't done it in a while. I was like, it's been so hot. I just like didn't want that extra like layer in the house with the summer. And now I just like it's been overcast. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect. Right timing. So things like that, like just everyday practices that we're doing and that we um, lean into. I just feel like the other aspect about hoodoo though is it's like I don't know, you just feel oftentimes I feel like I end up in spaces where I just hear this call to do this and it just kind of flows from the body. And I think that's not just hoodoo. I think a lot of people who are in spiritual practices and are in connection with their ancestors and who are living elementally, like in connection with the elements, hear those calls where they're just like feel these urges to move in specific ways. And I think for me, ancestral veneration and hoodoo and moving in our spiritual practices just leans very much that way. It's just like these.
Oh, you just got muted for some reason. I don't know what happened. Did I mute you? No.
Oh, I stopped. Sorry.
Oh, you just stopped talking. Okay, cool.
Yes, I did.
Okay. I feel like, Kenda, I want to ask if you have anything to add around, because I feel like we're just kind of in an organic way moving into sort of beginning to talk about like what hoodoo is.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm interested to hear from you, like what you really wanted to communicate in the book, or like what you really wanted to make sure came across or the book was imbued with.
Okay. Well, hoodoo is a way of life, I feel. People categorize it in different ways. It was a way for people of color here in America to be able to take what they could see, touch, and smell and create healing, magic, and power. It is a very how can I say? It's more of a practical way. Like they how can I say this? They they would find a certain type of a plant. And these are people that not only not only had to use what they had learned from Africa, but they also over generations, over time, had to and had to and had to intuit what herbs to use, what stone stone to to choose, and to use, like I said, what they actually had, you know, on hand. And I think that's powerful. And i- in the book, you'll see them doing everyday tasks of like cleaning and cooking. But with hoodoo, there's always a special element of consciousness with every step. I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah, well, okay. So can I just reflect back to you some stuff
hmm
that's really exciting? Um, First, it does feel like there's this element of like when you're severed from your roots and you are like in, like a hostile environment in a new place, there's this need to kind of rebuild self-trust and like inner authority and
hmm
to like work with what is available. And I think that, speaks to something that you said, Nyasha, which is like just being really in touch with yourself and with your urges. Like to me, the what I am feeling out as I hear both of you talk about it is it's like it's very emergent. It's like very close to like both your inner and outer senses. And you're just
hmm
like, you're feeling your way into it and you're in close touch with it all the time. Like, it's not like a religion where like, like once a week you show up at a certain place and then you just go and do your own thing. Like you're
hmm
constantly touching it, you're constantly feeling it out, like it's constantly communicating with you. And it's doing that in a way that, I mean, to me, it feels like there's actually a lot of, like you said, Kenda, physicality to it. Like it's stuff that you can smell, hear, see, touch.
hmm
Is that,
Oh yes, most
am I getting
definitely.
it
No,
right?
no, yes. I mean, like for instance, people would find roots to heal. You know, one of the biggest tropes I think has been the watermelon in Black people. And how that's like Black people eat a lot of watermelon, but the ha of it is that that fruit is very hydrating. And for people that had to work in the fields from sun up to sundown, and sometimes they couldn't drink enough water, or the water, it was bad or dirty, they were able to eat fresh fruit and hydrate themselves. And it also has vitamins and healing. When you talk about taking certain types of things like an onion. An onion can be used to draw out infection, things like that. So I think it's very powerful that we were able to find our power through the elements, like
Mm.
my daughter said.
And I want to add to the watermelon aspect because I was like, I did a whole episode on my Substack about the watermelon because there is this huge trope, and we know that there's this huge propaganda that went through of like shaming Black people and watermelons. So there was
Mm-hmm.
like this huge propaganda campaign that was created. And why was it created? Because after, I will say in quotation marks, slavery was abolished. So after that, Black people had to figure out and be ingenuitive in how to get funding. Like, how are they going to raise funds for their family? How are they going to uplift their family? And selling watermelon was one of the ways. It was this abundant crop. They were very used to working in the fields at this point. So it just felt very natural for many of them to step into that and start selling watermelon. And because it was working so well, and like watermelon was doing well. It was bringing abundance and prosperity to these Black families and to these people who were stepping into, building a new life for themselves through the watermelon. White people did not like this, especially enslavers that had now had to give up their slaves and their workers. And that's why the propaganda campaign came out of shaming people with watermelon and shaming Black people around watermelon. So the reality is, watermelon is for our community this symbol of like abundance and prosperity. It is this symbol of us, our ingenuity. It is a symbol of us doing for ourselves and figuring it out in community.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that like every time I eat watermelon, especially knowing that story consciously, I'm reclaiming that. So I sit in reverence of my ancestors walk with this specific plant, and I sit in reverence of why it's so important for me to confidently and proudly eat it now.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that, and I just got so much chills, which I like have gotten every time I've listened to you talk. I just want to say I love your Substack. We absolutely have to link it. There's another thing that came through in your Substack that I want to talk about, which is another one of your creative projects that you did together, which is the ancestral money, right? Oh my, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I'm so excited because I also kind of want to step through. I feel like we rushed a little bit. I kind of want to step through Saturday Magic because it's like a
Mm-hmm.
day in the life of a family, specifically a little girl who practiced hoodoo. And I want to go back to one of the things Kenda said, which is like you're doing everyday things, but you're doing it with like more intentionality and a consciousness layered on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm I'm wondering if we can talk about what specifically you decided, like you said, you made a list, what specifically you decided to include in that book and why, and just kind of concrete examples of hoodoo and the consciousness that comes along with it. Like you don't have to tell me about the whole book, but I'm kind of curious about just a few things you want to call out.
Oh, okay. You want me to start?
I can say just first, I'll
Okay.
just open up with dreams. Like that's the like huge like umbrella of the book is dreams. I think in a lot of BIPSV cultures and practices, dreams are super important, and reflecting on dreams and like understanding that dreams have meaning and like they hold weight. Because I think there's this phrase of like people having terrible dreams, and you see it in movies where they're just like, it's just a dream, don't stress about it. But it's like, I think that there's so much more to that. And I've done a lot of reading of articles and like books by many Black authors, and they talk about dreams often. And they talk about how it was very much traditional practice for a very long time in the Black community to sit and discuss your dreams. That's something you do at the kitchen table in the morning, and you have those discussions about those dreams, and oftentimes like people will help with like understanding behind them, and there's like this elder younger generation of gaining this knowledge and this growth. And it's interesting because the other layer with hoodoo we didn't talk about is like hoodoo is all these layers, and it's mixed because when we were taken from Africa, we were not allowed to practice our traditional African practices, our traditional African religions. And we were all different tribes from different places, and we were all blended together. And, we weren't allowed to practice. And enslavers were told, you need to make your slaves Christian. They were like, you need to make the slaves Christian. So we were literally not at all, we would be killed if we practiced something that was not Christianity. And so this is where you see, like, especially in Catholicism, like, you'll hear if you look into research of the saints and stuff, you'll see that, like, a lot of different cultures, because they had to assimilate their spiritual practices, they hid them behind Christianity's deities. So they would practice and work with their deities and their gods and their goddesses and their Orisha, whoever they practice and work with when they were back home, they would find ways through Christianity to continue those practices. And so it was a very much hidden in plain sight, we call it.
Mm.
And when you look at all those it's one of those things where I had a friend that I was very close to who definitely felt uncomfortable with my tarot decks, my oracle decks, felt uncomfortable with some of the spaces I was moving into spiritually. And we were trained that way. Hollywood trains us that way. I don't think I'd ever seen hoodoo or voodoo that wasn't like made scary
Hmm.
in Hollywood or films or magic. We've been trained to fear our ancestral practices, to fear the African traditional religions. We've been trained in this. Like, that is what the Western world's aim was, and part of colonization and white supremacy. To fear our own power, to fear our own magic. And that's why hoodoo's so powerful, because we still, even in all of that, we're still stepping into our power. We're still moving in ways that were keeping us aligned to our traditional practices. So dreaming, I feel like, um, is a practice that is still appears regularly in the community. I was like, even Christians have a lot of dreams and they still have these discussions. So it's like, this is when I say these things mirror. It's just some people are only okay with them done in the under the guise of the church. They're not okay with them at home or practicing outside of that. But it's like, if it's done under the guise of Christianity, then it's acceptable. Outside of that, it's not. Now, again, there are people who are, we call them churchy hoodoos, is like some of the communities that I'm in, they'll say churchy hoodoos because some people don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and that's fine. I own that. I honor that. Like, that is true. I was like, I think there has been a space, like my mother in law and my mom, like she practices both. And there's a space for that. I was like, we honor that. I was like, there's a lot of communities, hoodoo communities, where we honor that there's a, like our ancestors used the church to do what they were doing, to continue the traditional practices. They are intertwined. So it's like we just don't want to throw that away, and we want to honor that did work, that had power in it, that had strength. Um, the ancestors understood that and worked with us through those spaces, through the church spaces, through church community. So I was like, this friend of mine had specific dreams, and one of them we always talk about is fishes. If you dream of fish, someone's pregnant. And there's just a specific dreams that if you know about in the community, then there's specific things that are just known about it. My friend used to dream of spiders and she knew money was coming. So it's just very interesting. Like, and everyone I think builds up their own repertoire. It's kind of like, to me, like a bone throwing kit. Like, you kind of have to build your own meanings with the items in the bone throwing kit, and then you understand. I was like, I think your dreams are going to come through to you from your ancestors trying to give you a message, and you learn to interpret them just like you learn to interpret any divinational tool or cards.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So in the book, the little girl has a dream about a particular, it's a yellow bird, right? And like part of like the arc of the story is she's trying to like, and this is actually really beautiful too. Um, it is again like just a very embodied, emergent way to like feel into what the interpretation might be. Like she's actually moving through her day looking for clues around how to interpret the dream. Um, I love that embodied, emergent, like experimental piece because I feel like, speaking of cultures colliding or like the overculture in the Western white culture, it's very like you have to do things perfectly on the first try. Like you have to have like all these like certifications and trainings before you can even like set like a step into the world. And so what I find is people are very afraid to just go out and be in like a space of like experimentation or curiosity or just like feeling their way into some kind of knowledge. So I really love that piece. Can I just, out of my own curiosity, so there's certain, like you said, there's certain things that are like very personal where you're just building up your own personal interpretations and meanings. And then it does sound like there's some things that like as a collective and as a community have shared symbolic resonance, like fish means pregnancy and it
Hmm.
spiders means money, or was that personal for your friend?
I think that's personal for my friends. I don't think that's like across the board. Um,
No.
you can say what you want to say.
Yeah, Kenda, jump in.
No, okay, yeah. I just wanted to go back a little bit on the idea of, so this is happening on Saturday, right? So in most homes, and again, hoodoo, I don't think there's any people
It
that
was
say
Saturday.
I practice hoodoo. I mean, there are some, but for many years, Black families would do the rituals as a part of their daily work. So Saturday is ruled by Saturn. So Saturn is a clearing day. It's a cleaning day. It's where you remove any darkness or whatever. So most Black families would get up on a Saturday morning. I know my mother used to get me up on Saturday, and we're doing housework from top to bottom. And that's like synchronicity to Saturday, the sun. I mean the planetary e- energy. And then too, there would be certain things that they would put in the mop. Ammonia, which is something that is very cheap but effective for cleaning out anything that is dirty. This dirt. Have you ever used ammonia before and see how it just strips away dirt almost on contact? So imagine using that with intention, that I'm clearing out negative energy, I'm clearing out debt, I'm clearing out these different things. So when I was thinking of it, I was thinking of showing the day-to-day things that have been like a part of it. Also, before ammonia, people would use what they called chamber lye. Do you
Mm.
know what chamber lye is?
I know lye when it comes to soap making. Is it chamber lye connected to lye at all, or?
It is not that fancy. It's urine.
Okay.
Chamber lye, which again would be used to clear away and to mark your territory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But of course, that's not hygienic. But those were the things that were used. Also, too, which we did not add, was that I wanted to add in they were playing some music because they would also some households would play old gospel songs, and that's again clearing out the energy. Let the
Mm,
saints come and sing and clear out the energy, you know, with these strong, powerful voices that are singing through the house while you're cleaning.
mm,
All of those things are hoodoo. All of that stuff is spiritual and it's practical,
mhm.
yet very spiritual. And some, I know that um, most people like to clean using music. So these are things that I thought were like important to add to it as part of a ritual. I'm sorry. Just want to add that. That's all.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to talk about, well, that was one of the things that like really surprised me when I first heard you read the book is how much like spirituality and magic was connected to just like cleaning. And what is coming up for me now is when you first introduce yourself, you use the word weaver. And at first, my brain wanted to just be like, this is really excellent, like multitasking, like we're cleaning at the same time as we're doing our spiritual practice. And I was like, I don't love that word actually, because multitasking to me kind of has a scarcity like attachment to it, like where we're, but like I was like, oh, actually, it feels like weaving. Like it just feels like adding richness and layers into, and then like you said, like there's just multiple layers of consciousness to just this like one act. So um yeah, that was another part of the book where there was just like a very specific cleaning ritual. And I remember asking you what Florida water was, because that was like one of the things that was added to the mop water. So if either one of you wants to kind of describe, just for people who haven't read the book, like what that part of the hoodoo or what that part of like the illustration of hoodoo was, and then we can talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So, um, something that is utilized a lot are like spiritual colognes or sprays. And Florida water is a spiritual cologne. And people always get thrown off if they haven't heard it. They're like, is it really water from Florida? And I'm like, no, it's not. I don't know why they have that name, but um, you can buy it at the store. You can buy it at your local botanica. You can buy it on Amazon, even though we're not all about Amazon. You can buy it anywhere. That being said, um, the goal of Florida water is, I mean, it's when you think of these spiritual colognes, it's just like any other spiritual tool, there's an intention behind it. So the intention behind Florida water is for cleansing out negative energy and calling in good energy. So you're calling in this good energy, these good vibes, you know, and, you know, when you start getting deeper into practice, I think we all start with like purchasing our stuff a lot of times, like especially in modern days. Let me say the younger generation does. Um, but as you get deeper into your practice, I think you start waking up to like, oh, I can amplify this on a much higher level. I can add so much more intention and it can be so much more infused if I'm creating it myself. So thankfully, you see a lot of people starting to shift to making their own. You know, and Florida Water has, I mean, there's recipes online. You can find it in very quickly. It's cinnamon. It's got orange peels in it. It's mostly alcohol. You put it's like a tincture, really. So a lot of you know, these spiritual practices and things are linked to herbalism, but you're just adding this additional um, focus, intention, and conscious um, intention and I don't know, conscious. You're just putting this conscious like love or intention into this specific thing you're creating.
Hmm.
So I personally do not make my own Florida water yet, which is something I want to get into. I have my recipe downloaded. I'm ready to start. But I do make other things. I make my own spiritual sprays. I make my own spiritual bath kits and I offer those to people. But I'm also the same person that if you need a spiritual bath and I can tell you need one or you ask me for a recipe, I'm like, I want to give you the recipe and deliver because I was like, we all need support. Like for me, the most important parts of spiritual practice, especially ancestral veneration and taking care of things, is spiritual hygiene is important. So that's just like protection and cleansing of your home. You just want to make sure that like you're able to hear spirit as well as you want to be able to hear them. You want to make sure that you are nurturing your space and loving on your space and yourself. And so, you know, spiritual baths, which again, when we talk about that hidden in plain sight, we're looking at baptisms, like how that mirrored in the like our some of the like other religions or cultures or Christianity. And so, or, you know, a lot in Hoodoo, you'll hear about feet washes or hand washes. All of that is something that is regular practice. Like I know my husband and I try and follow the moon. So new moon, full moon, we're getting our spiritual bath in. And so it's a high, like these are tools that we use. It's a tool. Um, and I think sometimes people limit themselves in thinking that they have to have specific items or specific things. You really don't. And I was like, I've seen tons of people do magnificent stuff with just using nature outside in terms of their spiritual practices, their ancestral veneration, and Dollar Tree candles. You know, you really don't have to be doing the most. Like, you can do so much with very little, and a lot of, again, just using what's around you and putting that intention into it.
Hmm.
Mm,
I just wanted to add, add really quickly is like again, it's intention. Um, the ancestors used what they had on hand and put their power into it. If you cannot find, for whatever reasons, Florida water, or you feel like, oh, I don't know if I can make it on my own, you can use gin or vodka. That's a spirit. That's why they're called spirits.
mm,
And and they're made from organic ingredients like um potatoes.
mm,
Vodka is. And that is another root that
mm,
draws out. infections. So if you're like, oh, I can't afford it, you can get you three shorties or whatever, whatever they're called, of some vodka and add that to your bath water and some coconut milk. That was one of the first baths that I gave my daughter. Some simple things, some coconut milk. You can add some vodka or some Florida water and camphor. And those things you can probably for no more than $6 and some change, if that, if you're not really trying to be fancy about it. So, and not putting your power in other people. I think Hoodoo reminds us of that.
Yeah. Again, I'm loving like how pragmatic it is, but also so like it is, like it is like rituals and things and ingredients, but it's also not dogmatic about it. Like you said, like if you don't have one thing, just substitute another thing, or like, like the intention is really the most important thing. And I think that's such a beautiful like lesson, is just to like don't let like dogma or perfectionism or like getting it exactly right stop you from like practicing and engaging and like deepening into it. So um yeah, let me, I don't know, do you have anything you want to say more about the practices in the book, or are you ready to move on? Or
I was going to say we can talk a little bit about like just ancestral veneration in general. Um,
Mhm.
so ancestral veneration is this honoring and nurturing of your ancestors. It's, consciously venerating, because we're venerating all the time. I was like, when you buy Nike shoes, you're venerating Nike and all the people who built that brand. That's why our street signs matter. That's why who's on our statues matter. That's why who's on our money matters,
yeah, we talked
because
about
we're venerating consistently. And so ancestral veneration is honoring, the people that allowed you to be here today, to be able to move the way you're moving today, to be able to live the way you're living today. It's sitting with them and acknowledging them and making space for them in your life, in all that they've done for you to get to that point.
yeah,
Um, oh,
no, go ahead.
been really quick. Ancestor veneration. So once we understand that it is done in plain sight every day, all day, the Nobel Peace Prize. If you ask the average person who he was, they couldn't tell you. The name of your town. Who is it named after and why?
Mm,
Your street. We're constantly giving energy to the state of Colorado. What does that energy mean? The money, as my daughter said, Benjamin, who wasn't even a president, but why is he on the $100 bill? But I'm not going to go there today. But I'm just saying that we do this all the time. And when we have the pictures up on our wall of our grandma and had passed away, their wedding photographs, when the photo album and we're looking at it and we're reminiscing about that time, or you are going to wear grandma's favorite red scarf, that's ancestor veneration. And I think that we don't really consciously think of it. And this is for everyone. Everyone does it. But we're just haphazardly floating through life doing it. But people that know, like these companies, they know and they're drawing our energy towards like for instance, what is Nike? That is a Greek god, correct, right? So I'm not going to get into my spooky conspiracy type of theories, but we're worshiping. We're worshiping. And
mm,
then we have certain certain people or stars or actors or singers or brand ambassadors of a certain company or a certain brand, that's our demi demigods, you
Yep.
know. When we start talking about, oh, that's spooky, that's scary, I don't want to do that, you are not going to honor your ancestors that are in your DNA that made it possible for you to be here. But you're rather like, oh my God, I love Britney, Beyonce. You
Yep.
know,
We're looking at you, Swifties.
so it goes both ways. So it's not even a cultural thing. It's really a social, well, it is a cultural thing. It's a world culture that the common person doesn't understand, that they are venerating and practicing to help others to create wealth and power. But that's a whole nother conversation.
When I looked at the Starbucks, the actual icon, like when you read about it and you really look into it, you cannot look at that thing the same. And then the fact that it's a
Mama
siren,
Wata.
the
Yeah.
fact that it's a siren and like there's all these layers. No, it's one of those old mermaids and it has two tails. Look at the positioning, sit with that, and like I need everyone to sit in that for a moment. But what I will say is there's also beautiful venerational things happening in our world. And an
Yes.
example that I said, like there's this person on TikTok that I saw, and there's people who, and I love this, like I went to culinary school, food is such a part of my like life and being. There's people who put recipes that were important to them on their tombstones. And this woman
Mm.
goes out and cooks these recipes and sits at their grave and eats it with them. And I'm like, I love that veneration. Like some of these people might have been forgotten, or like who knows if people are coming to their tombstone. And I just love that this woman heard the call and is stepping into this. Um, I think other ways that I think are beautiful, like I think there's an example of veneration a lot in the Black community, especially in films, is like people pouring alcohol at gravestones, at stones. You see that a lot. Um, I have heard, you know, my friend told me that her grandmother had a ton of church hats that got passed down to her. I think that's so
Mm-hmm.
sweet. So at her funeral, they all wore one of her church hats, and they'll do that in honor of her at times. Apologies. Um, and then I think of what was the other one? I saw something else super beautiful the other day that I thought was gorgeous. But I just do think that there are some people who are consciously venerating and doing it in such beautiful ways. And I think if
Mm-hmm.
we all step back, think about what you're putting your energy into it, what you're giving. I'm like, I think about concerts all the time. It's like you are giving to something. There's so much energy there. Like consciously think about what you're giving. And so in all of that, I was like, this is part of the reason why the ancestor, we're swinging it back around to the ancestor money. This is why we created our ancestor money. I had this feeling, I've kept sitting with our money and I was getting so frustrated with the visuals and I was really upset that Harriet's not on our $20 bill yet. When I any article or video that I watch of why, it's just, oh, Trump pushed back the timeline, apparently. Um, who knows? They say she's coming 2030. I really wanted to see her on that 20, and I thought of other ancestors that I felt like didn't get their flowers down here, didn't have the recognition, or I think that we just need to consciously should be on our money for all that they've given down here. Um, but we did it in the sense of healing first because a lot of our ancestors give so much down here, and sometimes it's recognized, sometimes it's not. But we wanted to consciously allow that healing for them. So every ancestor on the money, because I do ancestor money readings with them, I consciously am able to see, oh, this is probably something that you need to work on because this ancestor, as much as they gave, this is something that an area that they struggled with. So it lets me know that there's an area that they need healing in. So it's beautiful because when they do that healing, they're doing it for the ancestor, they're doing it for themselves and the community as a whole. And so
Mm.
the ancestor money has been this really beautiful project. I feel like it was really interesting because we made it, we got it done, and it was like I feel like I always envision the ancestors in this conference room above us. Like when things happen, they're all sitting in this conference room trying to figure
They
out what's
are.
going on and what's like going back and forth, and it's like this whole thing. And when that happened, they were literally in so much deliberation of what to do with this money because it was like this beautiful offering, but they were like, I don't, they're trying to figure out all the pathways of what can be with it. And I really am so honored to give ancestor money readings. I love doing them in person here in Colorado. And then obviously, I do them virtually as well, but they just have been such a beautiful way to give to the community. And like, honestly, my favorite form of divination right now. But they, really, we put so much intention to them. Like you said on my Substack, I have broken down all the steps taken, the seals, the sigils that have been made, the seals that have been made, all the moving pieces that we added to the money. And when I think that carefully about my money and I put that much intention, I'm like, what in the world is on these dollar bills that I'm running around swinging here, like that I'm using and pushing out here, that I'm using, that we're putting all this energy into? What is on those bills? So it's like it makes me nervous with them waiting on Harriet too, because I'm like nervous of like what are they putting in it, because I know how much intention and love and movement I put towards the like evolution of our world, towards the liberation of all, towards the healing of ourselves and these ancestors. And I'm like, what was put on these dollar bills? Like, what does all those numbers and all the signs and symbols mean for real?
I just wanted to add to that. Yeah, the money is so this young lady, when she came to me about this money, I thought we were just going to get some pictures and write some. She was like, no, we got to make this a full offering of mind, body, and spirit. So her vision, the ancestors were with her. And I'm on the fence actually about Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill. I understand the idea of the imagery, but it's a form of currency. And she was bought and sold. So I'm kind of, I understand. Oh, she gave me the look. I understand she gave me the look, but I understand the quote unquote honor of it. You know what I'm saying? But I also energetically, I kind of, because she was bought and she was sold.
I
Um,
don't know. I'm gonna push back because
yeah,
I feel like
you can push back
again
on
she she took so many people out of slavery, out of bondage,
it. Mm-hmm.
and created these ingenuitive systems that they had to move in secret, that they like that allowed the transformation of, getting people out. And so I think we need that ingenuity right now. So I'm
No, I
here for
agree.
her carrying that energy of her ingenuity. I also think I love Harriet because you can't water her down. I was like, they put Maya Angelou on our quarter. I wouldn't even know that was Maya Angelou. So I very much am for people that they're not going to whitewash. Like, you can't really whitewash Harriet. She is who she
Yeah,
is. And
yeah,
I
you
don't want
can't.
anybody that they're going to be able to, like, there's only so many pictures of Harriet. It's like, it's Harriet. I was like, I feel like there's other ancestors where they can kind of mold it and shape it and whitewash it and
And
shift
most
it.
of the time, she's carrying a gun. So, yeah, I mean, I get you, but maybe that's my Gen X angst speaking, but I respect it. And damn sight, I will spend it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, like, one of the things that I hear coming up, and I think this is just like a wider issue, is, and I did hear you kind of, Nyasha, talk about this even in your Substack articles, where some people like the idea of burning money symbolically and some people don't. And it just kind of depends on like what meaning you're bringing to it, whether it works for you or not. And I kind of hear that in your dialogue right now around Harriet Tubman, on basically like white people money that was designed by white people. And I can see how like if you bring a certain meaning to it, it's like a little bit like there is some whitewashing or is some using going on that doesn't like sit right. And then like from another perspective, it is like a type of veneration. And, you know, to your point, Nyasha, like there is this trust that it can't get misused and that the goodness will come through. So I mean, I think about this a lot. And I think speaking of spiritual practices and magical practices generally, like that is where people will kind of get trapped in analysis paralysis, where like some people will be like, don't put salt on an altar. And other people will be like, put salt on an altar because it means this. And then you're just like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I'm curious if either of you want to kind of comment on if
Most
you're feeling
definitely.
stuck in a situation like that. And then I
Oh,
definitely want to get back to talking about this money because I have so many questions and it's such a beautiful creative project.
oh yeah. When I first started really delving into my spirituality, I was very scared about, oh God, I can't do this on this day. Or if I use this too much and then the bad stuff's gonna come get me, or I'm gonna throw something off. And I believe that people should follow guidelines. They should have there's plenty of sources to start studying, but it's intention and with your higher self. That's why I teach people to learn how to hear their own voice, so that that way you can start being led better towards what fits right and what feels right and what your ancestors will resonate them to. In terms of burning of the ancestor money, it is number one, symbolic. Number two, it's energy. You are transforming. You are offering it, and then you are are setting it on fire to transform to ashes. It's energy. So it's not like I don't know why people would have like an issue other than they feel like you're burning your ancestor or this person, but you're really giving their essence energy, in my opinion. But I have some people that's like, I don't know about burning. I don't want to burn her yet. This feels weird, you know, you know, but it's not you're not burning the actual person. And also, if I'm not wrong, burning money is considered a crime. If I have to look it up. So that could be something
I want to
as
Google it
well.
right now.
Yeah, me too. But
I'm
so
so
yeah, that's it.
curious because like not to get too into the weeds here, but I was just listening to another podcast on magic and it was talking about how magic like intentionally uses things that are considered taboo. Like part of magic is just being willing to step into a brave space and do something that like normal people are too afraid to do. So that kind of just resonated with that idea that someone else shared about magic. But
Interesting. So I say it's like learning discernment, which takes time. Um, because yeah, I was flailing when I started my spiritual walk. I was like trying to reach out. And the reality is it's like you can be guided. I do believe in like I know you were talking about how like everyone gets the certifications and stuff to be able to do certain things. And it's interesting because that's a very Western way to view spirituality. Like all these people doing ayahuasca, like getting certifications to do Reiki and all these things, right? It's like traditionally with the spiritual practices they originated from, or like a lot of times it's very BIPOC communities that this has just like they grabbed they wanted and ran, and are practicing them as they want to now. But the whole point is that elders and mentors were really what helped people learn their practices. and become strengthened in their practices. But I'm a deep believer that like you still absolutely have to learn your discernment and have to learn how to listen to your intuition and learn how to speak and communicate with your guides yourself, because I was like, no one is going to walk the same walk as you. It's like everyone's spiritual gifts are completely different. And so you have to learn how to navigate those and figure out how those work yourself. There's no, and I think with Western world, we're always like looking for like, where's that book or that article or that video or that thing I'm gonna read that's gonna make me understand how to do things and how to, and it's like there's none of that. It's a navigating. A lot of times you won't know what your spiritual gifts are until you're just moving in the world and you figure it out what it is. Like you're moving and like I said, kind of that like leaning in to the ancestors and the guides and nature, and it just appears and it comes through like that. So it's like there's no textbook for this. There's no book for dummies on this. It's like you gotta just step in and allow to be. And I think the other aspect is like especially in Hoodoo, there is a place for discipline. I do think that if you want to grow your gifts, if you want to strengthen things, you do need to show some discipline. I think that is one of the strongest forms of self-love to me, is having some discipline in practice. So it's like, making space for talking to my ancestors. So like this is where like daily practice of pulling a card a day, that's discipline, of making that ritual practice. On Sundays, that's my day to really make space for the ancestors, Sundays and Mondays. And Sundays is like when I change out all the water on their altars, just like Deo does in the book. And, making space for that. I know there's people like my mom here who give their ancestors coffee every day. So they'll put their coffee out for the ancestors, drink their own coffee, then have that space to commune with the ancestors each morning. So there is this aspect of like, you do need to have some discipline and make space for them, because the reality is there's so many distractions in our world. There's so much going on. If you don't consciously step out and like make space for them and make that space. And like, to me, I know people say, oh, meditate. I'm like, to me, sitting with the ancestors to commune with you is meditating. You going outside and sitting in nature with the ancestors, that's meditating. So it's just making space outside of the hustle and bustle of life to commune and be in communion. In relation to the burning of the ancestor money, I'm deeply a huge believer in elemental healing for the community. So to me, I was like, I don't judge people who say that like, oh, I don't want to burn them. That doesn't feel right to me. That's your discernment. Walk with that. For me, I personally feel like I want to re-embrace with all of the elements, because I feel like we've had harm, especially as the Black community, by all the elements. We've been harmed through water, which is life. Literally, you need it to live. We've been harmed through fire. We've been harmed through metal. We've been harmed in so many ways. And so for me, working with fire, working with these elements and doing different practices with them is me reclaiming and coming into my power with the elements. So for me, the ancestral ritual is so important. And when I do ancestral money rituals, which my mother-in-law, when she comes out to me in Colorado, which she's come a couple times, we sit and practice, we do it together. I can't wait till she comes out and we can do it with the ancestor money that we created together. We haven't done it, we've done it with our other money, but when we get to do it with our money together, in person, face to face, in real life. Because what I do, even with my husband, we sit down. Anyone who does the ritual with me, my second youngest sister's done it with me. We sit outside. We have a list of all the names. We light a candle. We have a list of all the names of all the family names that we know. So every name that we know of, like last name, that's connected to our family. And we obviously make space for ancestors unknown. And we also make space for ancestors who gave their life because they didn't want to be in bondage. Mm-hmm. So we speak all of that out. And then we burn the ancestor money for them to be able to use that energetically to aid the family, to move things and shift things in the ways they need to be shifted.
Mm. So, Kenda, I'm really curious to hear what you have to add. I did Google, and it is illegal to burn money in the United States.
Yes, it is.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, I'm curious to hear more about what you think about burning money and what you have to
Oh
say.
yeah. So a lot of things, this is what a lot of times we make things so deep when we are our own ancestors, right? So there are different challenges that our ancestors went through. And this goes for everyone. And some of them passed away not being able to, quote unquote, to fix things or to heal things or to live a better life. So, one way for us to venerate them is to live a healthier and more powerful and honest and loving life. That's one. And to add more power to it is by keeping them in our hearts and our minds, meaning that when we are giving them this money, we are giving them that money for the for the business that they wanted to open but they couldn't, and secondarily we are asking them to activate the will, the superpower, the knowledge to go further than them. We are our ancestors' dreams, all of us, no matter if we're black, white, young, or old. There is an ancestor right now that loves that you are a free woman.
So I was
You
gonna
have
say, oh,
options that they didn't have. You know, I definitely, as a black woman, have more options than my mothers did. So, ancestor honoring is a daily thing to me. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, in terms relation to ancestors and white ancestors, I know that some white people get uncomfortable about working with their ancestors, and that gives them anxiety, just because some people like, I don't know if I'm aligned to all my ancestors now, and there's just like a lot of feelings with that. And I think the first place to start with all of that is like you need to sit with who you were before you got labeled white, and that's where you start. And so you need to make space for the people who were a part of your lineage and DNA before you got the label whiteness. And then you need to do those DNA tests. I was like, I think there's way too many, especially white ancestors, who have been told, oh, you're this, and you don't really know that. I was like, DNA tests are that proof. I was like, if you know about the $5 Indian, I was like, those things were things that were utilized. And so some people have for years been saying, oh, you know, I have indigenous blood and don't really know that. And so I feel like it's very important for white community, I mean, I think all community, but white community, to figure out who they were before they were white and to sit with their ancestors and what were their ancestors practicing before they came to wherever they were. Like, what is your homeland? Have you been to that land? I was like, I think there's all these layers. And I was like, as black people, we're going on these journeys ourselves. I think as a transracial adoptee, it's another level. But I think as black people in America, we have that journey to take and that pilgrimage to walk to return home. But we all kind of need to go on this walk of returning home to ourselves.
hmm
Wait,
And
so
I
when
just wanted to, oh,
oh,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I just want to add one more thing. And you're going to also ask for your cultivated ancestors. You're not going to call the the drunk that used to beat his wife and had no ambition. you know, you're not going to call him forth. You're going to offer him healing and
Mm,
peace so that coding is not passed on, you know. So I just wanted to add that, just because I'm not calling up everyone, because there are ancestors that I may not need to work with, because they may not have been on a energy, a level that I want to awaken.
And I think that I think that yes, like when I speak, I always say ancestors known and unknown who are towards my highest good and with ease, right? And that's what I'm calling upon. But I also think when I talk to my ancestors, it's like I like just kind of like we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater with Christianity. I think there are ancestors that like I have an like a, a female ancestor on here who did not do well with men, but that doesn't mean that she couldn't help me in another area that she may have been great at. So, you know, there's you're gonna lean on people for certain things. Like if you're more conscious of who you if you knew those ancestors, then you might know an area. Like my dad is I mean, he's amazing when it comes to building and structural things. If my dad crossed over, you know, if I had ever had issues in that way, I would lean on him deeply, even in the other realm, towards guiding me and helping me with that kind of work because that was his forte here. He's great at it, and I know he would be great there. That being said, even ancestors who pass away and they really struggled down here and really may have made some not great choices, there is work to be done on the other side that allows you to shift and allows you to evolve and allows you to grow and move into spaces where you are able to guide and help and be a guide. But there's work to be done on the other side. But yeah, all that to say is that yes, call upon your ancestors, I would say, towards your highest good and with ease. People who are ready to support you. And it's again, I work with my blood ancestors, so my like biological family. I work with my adoptee ancestors and I work with my in-laws ancestors. So all of them are on my altar together. And I've also, as a writer, I don't feel like I ever write alone. I know that when I'm writing, it's ancestors who maybe not have gotten the chance to be an author, or maybe they had to hide behind a pen name or hide behind a man. You never know what their story was, but they're here to write with me now and to work with me now and to create with me now in this time, day, space, and age.
Yeah, I am just thinking about how, like, my own experience in thinking about working with ancestors, and I think a lot of people's experience, which you touched on, if you're white, like, just kind of not being sure of like what you're gonna find or like what these people did and like what you're actually venerating. Um, I wanted to ask, so it sounds just from hearing both of you like there again there is like choice and discernment and agency and being able to like you get to make the decision around the ancestors that you're like calling upon and working with. Is that right? And then what, Kenda, you said something, was it elevated or cultivated ancestors where
Mm-hmm.
okay, so that is kind of like you again are just picking someone that has the energy that works for you. Um,
Yes.
I guess my question is there like an it's a two-part question. Is there an obligation to support ancestors who struggled on the incarnate plane?
No.
And no. Yes, no.
No. Yes. Yes. Those definitely. But keep. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. So that I think that's my first question is there an obligation? And then my second question is then what do you do? Like what are ways to support?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'll jump in, and then I see my daughter wants to add to it. So, um, culturally speaking, for me, um, Black ancestors need a lot of healing, in particular from their own, because a lot there are nameless people that have sacrificed or have passed on that never got the energy in. this life. So people, we should honor them in terms of their healing, or because we could say grandpa was a terrible dad or whatever. He was like abusive or just whatever. But 9 times out of 10, he had a story of abuse and hurt that he grew up under, and he carried it on. So it's our job to stop generational curses, number one, in this body, but to also to honor the pain, not to honor the actor or the act rather, but to say we are sending you healing, to understand that you were possibly not raised properly or whatever. But yes, but I'm not going to call them to help me in something, because I don't want, for me, um, I want them to heal and incarnate again in a better form, in a better way. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Um, I feel, yeah, so it feels like there definitely is a place to send support. And then I guess my next question is, what does that support look like? If you're not calling upon this person to help you, like what sort of practical like offerings or like, what kind of energy are you sending them to facilitate that healing?
So I know Kenda like highlighted like black ancestors need that. I'm like, I think white ancestors need that. I'm like, I watch like period piece films, and I'm like watching these white family members like watch people be burned at the stake all the time, and like just like I think of all the craziness that like was socially acceptable, that was like so not okay, that they're like watching and internalizing and normalizing. So I'm like, there's so much healing to be done. I think that looks like us healing, right? Like us making those shifts and changes in ourselves, us helping other people do that. I think it's always extending our lenses, because we only have certain lenses we see through. I think the more we can open up our lenses, we're healing in that way. Like the ancestor money rituals, when we're calling upon all those family names, we're like asking for healing, and um, you know, we're asking for healing and any support that needs in any of those family lines to be given in this time. So that's an example as well of like calling upon that healing for all those different people. Um, and I think the other ways that it's done is, you know, I don't think we can know everybody who needs all the help. Like, I'm sure I have ancestors up here. I don't know their full stories. I just have added people to the wall that have told me they want to be there. I don't know all of their full stories. I don't know everything about them, but I'm learning as I go. And like I said, these ancestors are, some of them I knew, it's been an interesting journey, and some of them I'm closer with that I knew down here, like with my adoptee family. I was like, they watch me make different decisions and shifts. Me choosing not really do Christmas anymore, do Kwanzaa, and there's all these conversations between me and them because they are going back and forth and don't really love it, and they see the stress it causes my parents, and it's just like all these shifts that we have to like figure out, and we're trying to figure out new ways of being as and what feels aligned to us. And so I know that while I'm working through things, my parents are there also working through things. We're all healing and shifting through all of that together. And like I said, I don't know everybody. So when I leave candles for them, when I like, my ancestors have specific days that I'll leave stuff for them, that I'm lighting for them, that I'm making space for them, giving them extra energy, leaving them food. All of that gives them energy to be able to do what's needed in the family. And sometimes it's ancestors that have already crossed over that need that support, but a lot of times they're helping everyone down here. Like, I don't know what's happening with all my aunts right now in Texas. There could be some crazy situation that they're using my veneration to aid that family member, right? So there's always healing and shifting happening. You just, a lot of times you're not seeing it. It's like ripples and waves. It's kind of like an author giving your books out to the world. You don't all know all the ripples and waves that come from that.
Um, can you, okay, I have one more question, and I know that we're kind of getting close to time. Do you have obligations that you need to go? Like, do we need to wrap, or how much time do we have? Okay, to keep talking a little bit more? Is that okay? Okay, cool. I know I don't want to keep you too long. I know we do need to wrap soon, but I there's still like so much I want to get to. I just have like a very practical question. Um, like for example, when you leave coffee or food on an altar, what is the proper way to then like move it off the altar? Like what do you do with it? Because I'm always like, well, it feels like that part, I'm like, it feels weird. Like, how do I what's the proper way to like move this off the altar? Because obviously it can't sit there forever. Which is just like a totally practical question. I want to get your thoughts on that. The second thing that I want to go back to, sorry, I'm going to make a quick list here and then we can just do these one by one. The second thing that I want to get back to is figure out who you were before you were white and just get a little bit of clarification on that. And then the third thing that I wanted to talk about is the ancestors that you chose for the money, and like if you're open to it, just kind of talking through what an ancestor money reading is like. That sounds so beautiful. So those are kind of the three things. And then I think after that we can wrap if that sounds good, unless you have other stuff you want to share that I didn't get to.
What was the final question? Sorry.
The final question was the ancestors you chose for the ancestor money,
Hmm.
and you're willing to share kind of what an ancestor money reading is like, because that sounded like a really yummy offering.
Absolutely.
Um, but I'm happy to repeat those. I just wanted to kind of share.
You want to start, Kenda, with the disposing?
Sure. So some people may just throw them in the trash. I don't say do that. The coffee I pour outside
Mm,
usually. I give it back. If it's like food, like I give my ancestors my food. So if I had like some steak and a salad, they're getting some too. So I'm not going to put that outside, like of course, because that's rodents and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, buggies. So I toss them out in a paper bag or something. But that's basically it. I don't think that some people feel you're supposed to give it back outside, but I live in an urban setting, so I can't do that unless it's maybe some fruit. It,
mm,
if it's some fruit, then I may take it to a tree, but it's away again because I don't want to invite visitors that I don't want in my yard, in my house. And of course, I like to cover, cover, cover the the food as well. And also, I like to watch it because you'll be fascinated by how much coffee is gone. You're like, oh my God, they're drinking the coffee. And
mm,
also, too, you don't want to leave it there too long, and then you see some some mold.
mm,
That's not a very good sign. That means that they're like, oh my gosh, you forgot about me. You just left this food here.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
you don't leave anything for too long. I kind of just do one day. So if I put it on that evening, I'm gonna take it off like the end of the day, next day or something. Um, yeah. And in terms of disposing, I if it's compostable, it's going outside. So it's gonna go to the trees or the plants or my compost. So whatever that looks like, it's going outside. If it's not, sometimes it goes to the trash if it's something that like just won't work. Um, I know that there's people, and this is very like hoodoo to do, but some people will take things to the crossroads too. So there's like deeper layers and all of that. But I think generally the simplest answers are just if it's compostable, giving it back to nature. And if it's not, yeah. And then there's other layers in it. Like if it's a working you did, for example, and it's something that you're trying to cleanse, then generally you don't want, like, generally it's picked up all the stuff that needs to be removed. So then you want to remove it from your space. So, like, for example, the spiritual bath my mother-in-law or my mom gave me for the first time, it has white flowers in it. And, you know, my mother-in-law was like, make sure that when you're done with the bath, you take the flowers and you get rid of them outside the house. You throw them in a trash can outside the house.
Mm.
So there's some rules like that. Like if it's something that's supposed to cleanse your body and you're supposed to getting rid of something, and then if it's something that you're trying to keep, like if you, I don't know, are doing some kind of ritual where it's an energy you want to keep close to you. Some people will say put it in the yard or keep it close or bury it, keep it close to your property. So it's this is where I say discernment. Listen to your spirit, because like I've always been guided to what tree I need to give my offerings to. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks for indulging me. And I think a lot of other people too. Like you said, Kenda, like, when you're starting out, you're just so shaky and you're just like, oh, am I doing it right? Like, what are the rules? So I think anytime anyone wants to offer what they do, it's really supportive and helpful. And it just gives people that like next step that they can feel into. Um, okay. So this piece around figure out who you were before you were white, does that mean figure out your roots pre-colonization? Okay.
Yes, it does. So because if you look up, like, there's many books on it now. If you don't understand where the label white came from, or understand that like you have something beyond whiteness, then you definitely need to read it. If anyone is out here listening to this and doesn't know that, definitely make space to read about that. But yes, we all are indigenous to something. Like we all have indigenous lands. We were all indigenous to somewhere. So it's a matter of going back to those indigenous roots of where we were before colonization or white supremacy, all the labels that were pushed upon us.
So do you feel like there is also ancestral healing to be done for ancestors who did perpetuate harm?
Yeah, and I don't think that that's necessarily always our job. Like sometimes, like there's stuff happening on the other side. Like it's not just like
Okay.
nothingness. Like so, I don't always think, but I think that when we heal and we do our stuff down here, it benefits them, and it's in its own generational community connectional way. It's like, especially if the harm was to you and you feel like I just don't want to mess with that ancestor, that's okay. And then, if there is an ancestor that you really loved and they really had a hard time, but you still want to work with them, you can, commune with them and see ways that you can help uplift them and do that shift. I know that when my husband's father passed away, my mother-in-law, my mom, did a lot of communing with him and talking to him as he was crossing over and as that shift was happening. Just, he had a lot of feelings and she was just helping him with all of that shift over.
Do you think
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just going to say that a lot of times when we think, so the ancestors, to me, there's levels to it where they're still figuring out what happened. Where am I? What the, you can't hear me? Hello? And then they go through the grieving as we do as well. And then there are the others that may think this is the most wonderful thing ever, that they're free.
Mm.
So we need to be conscientious of the essence is still floating
And I would
around.
say two films that do a great job of like visualizing that for us would be American Gods and The Sandman. Both of those, there's crossovers and they show very beautifully like just like how it can be jarring, how you're figuring it out, how you're not alone as you cross over, and what that can look like on the other side.
Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. I'll drop those in the show notes. I think maybe I realize I'm getting like very just curious about this ancestor part and asking like a lot of just like explain it to me questions, which I think I have one more. And then if it's okay, we'll move on to the ancestor money. I think my last question is for people who don't have access to their roots, like so people who are adopted or who are like refugee first generation, you know, like or their family has completely passed on and like the you know, memorabilia or any sort of paraphernalia that might have information has like been lost. So for those people who just feel very disconnected from immediate ancestry, what would you advise there? Like, because I know some people feel like it's okay to actually choose their ancestors from people who have died, like even if there is no blood relation, they just feel like that is a supportive person that they want to venerate and have on their altar. But I'm just curious if you have any thoughts.
Sure. I'm a transracial adoptee, so I felt like I didn't know what to do at the beginning. But then when I read someone saying just say ancestors known and unknown, you're calling upon known and unknown. And then obviously I say towards my highest good and with ease. So you can just leave it at that label if you don't know specific people. I would also say if you're comfortable with it, DNA tests can be really helpful in terms of like figuring out some of your spiritual practices, your indigenous lands, all those moving pieces. But I do believe your ancestors guide you if you make space for them. They will guide you in where you need to be and what you need to connect with. But I would just say, you know, to me, if anyone's trying to get started with their ancestors, I always say lean into the elements. I say, if you had to pick an element, what would your element be? And then finding a way to interact with that element. So water is my element. So I often talk to my ancestors in water, but it's like going and sitting and being with the element that calls to you.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything,
I,
Kenda?
no, I love fire and smoke. That's all. I'm more of a burner and fire, incense, the air element. That's all.
So was Grace. When I wrote the Oracle deck, Grace wrote fire and she wrote earth, fire and earth. Those are her more elements, and I'm water and air. So I wrote water and air.
Oh my gosh, I wonder what I mean, I know astrologically what my dominant elements are, but just like feeling into it without that more cognitive framework, I'm like, what is my element? I think I'm fire and earth. I don't know. I mean, I like water too. It's okay. Let me not take up space here trying to figure this out. Okay. And the ancestors that you chose, but thank you for offering that. That's actually super helpful, and I think it'll help a lot of people. Um, the ancestors that you were working with on your ancestor money, like how you chose those ancestors, and yeah, if you're willing just to say a little bit about, I know you kind of alluded to earlier the ancestor money reading, but I'm really curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, I some of them were obvious. Like Harriet was obvious, obviously to me. Um, but I think I just started writing a list of different ancestors that I felt like needed recognition, needed their flowers, or just like how important the impact is to me currently. And again, this is the first collection, so we definitely see expansion. This is just the 11 we started with and we're starting with now. But yeah, just people who I think really impacted us, and people we sit with often and like reflect on. Like I think Henrietta Lacks was another one for me. You know, I think about it all the time how Henrietta, like, it doesn't matter who you are in the world, we're all connected through Henrietta Lacks. And it's like the fact that people didn't even know who that was or her name recently until more recently is insane. The fact that her family still struggles with medical bills and medical care is insane. She transformed the medical industry and had no acknowledgement to her name. So when you look at all these layers and all of those kinds of contributions and like unconscious contributions and unconscious venerating and you know, she's technically alive in us all. It's just really astounding. And so, you know, we decided upon the 11 pieces of money. Nine of them are specific ancestors, and two of them are just general bills, general ancestral bills. So one is for blockbuster, which is like to remove blockages and clearings, like you need that energetic shift, like something's got to change, we got to break the cycle kind of vibes. And then there's another one that is specifically called a road opener, which is we're asking for new pathways, new opportunities, new spaces for expansion, in that are in alignment with us and our soul missions and towards our highest good. So yeah, that's kind of where it kicked off. Fannie Lou Hammer felt really cool because Fannie Lou Hammer, as I've done and connected with my maternal birth family, she's in my family line. So that was just like really cool to be able to have her on the money, and she's like literally connected to me, in blood ancestor. So it's been really cool to like think of who could be on this money and then imagine even the next bills of who's next, just because it is this really beautiful space. I will say my mother-in-law or my mom and I went back and forth about Miss Madam CJ Walker because I had feelings and she was very like, Madam CJ needs to be there, and I had feelings about it, so I'll let her share the layers within all that. But that's also why I had those really intentional sigils made for the money in relation to that too.
Madam CJ Walker to me had to be in the first run. And she and I really went back and forth on somatic. And it was that she liked to say self made. My daughter did not like that she was being arrogant. I'll just put it that she's my daughter is so eloquent what she says, but I could feel that the arrogance of saying that she was self made, she felt was wrong because everyone they get help. Now, and she also thought because of some of the ways that she made her money through hair, pressing hair, making kinky hair straight was um not the best thing to honor. So with my Gen X self, I said, I hear you, and I honor that because I am natural. But what we have to think about is that this is a woman that was one generation off of slavery, that was a washer woman and was losing her hair because of a bad marriage. And she created, well, she improved upon a hair, a hair, a hair, a hair, a hair cream to help Black women to grow hair. Now, this is a woman that is Black in the early 1900s, maybe 40 years past slavery, owning a company, making money, hiring other Black women who couldn't get jobs any other place at that time. And also, too, being able to make their hair more straight so that they could find work. Now, granted, inconvenient, it's wrong, Why would they have to do that? But a lot of families elevated elevated because of that. And she got very little help. So when she says that she was self made, she means that she did not inherit any money. And she had to really to bust down a lot of doors based on her gender and her color. Two things. And also within her own race. So with her being the first self-made female, black or white, millionaire in the 1900s is amazing.
Mm.
And I don't believe anyone's self-made.
Come
Um,
get me. Come
I'm a
get me.
deep, I'm a deep believer that no one's self-made. I was like, you know, even all the people who helped her, like if you watch, like they have a limited film or documentary of her life,
Hmm.
like a reenactment of what her life looked like. It's on Netflix. So if you haven't watched that, go watch that. But there's so much help from her family, from her daughter, from her husband. Like she gets like I think that we all get support in different ways, and I'm not saying
Hmm.
it's always financial, but I think that like there's support that comes in different forms. And so I definitely think she got support, and I also don't think she always paid gratitude to all the people that supported her either. But this is where the sigils come in, because the sigil, I had a specific sigil made by Morgan. Morgan is this amazing tattoo artist out here in Denver, and they do channel tattoos, which I now have two of. And so it's a whole ritual session with your ancestors. They draw the tattoo in session. You can decide if you want it on your body. The goal is healing 7 generations forward, 7 generations back. And this really coming back into yourself and into your body and being able to do the work you need to be doing down here. So they do amazing work. I felt like it felt very aligned for them to design the sigils. And so they made a sigil that, just kind of how we talked about, like there's layers in everybody, right? No one is Everyone's human. So I had them create a sigil that allows the carrying forth, it's a filter, so it allows the carrying forth of the traits we want to bring forth with us into this new world and into liberation and into the world we believe in and are trying to build. But it filters out the things that we don't need to carry with us.
Mm.
Now
Are
that's
all
what makes our money different than any others that you will ever find on the market. I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
is the sigils? Are all the sigils filter sigils, or like did the sigil kind of
They're
have a
not all filter
function?
sigils.
Okay, the
There's
sigils
four different ones. If you want to know exactly what they look like, and you won't see them really on the money because I like added them in with like they're layered, all these things, right? Like in the design. Some of them are like, there's a couple that you might be able to like really easily point out, but most of them you won't see them. But I showcase them on my Substack so you can see each of the different sigils that was that Morgan created for the money to allow it to amplify the work that we intended it for.
Yeah, and I just have to say it's so worth for everyone listening going to check the money out, because like so much care and design and beauty, like it's so beautiful. And it's really rich and layered and interesting. So we'll link your Substack so people can go check it out. Um, is it okay to talk about like what the money reading is like? Because that's such a cool idea.
Yeah, I had no idea that's where it was gonna head, but there's a beautiful human being out here in Colorado named Soraya, and I didn't really know Soraya. We run in a lot of the same circles and go to a lot of the same places, but we just had never physically met. And I got reached out to by Soraya. They were like, "Hi, I don't know you, but we seem to be connected through locations and go to a lot of same wellness spaces like Urban Sanctuary, et cetera, et cetera." And they were like, because they do beautiful yoga lessons. If you want a really liberational centered, loving, healing, and then when I say generational and ancestral healing yoga session, go to one of Soraya's yoga sessions. They are phenomenal.
I have
Um,
to.
yes, you need to. They're amazing. So Soraya um, reached out to me, and they had been teaching at CU at the time, wanted to give money, my money, buy some bills for me to give them to their students as gifts, holiday gifts. So they bought money from me to give to their students. And that's how we started our connection. Then Soraya does many events. They're all amazing. And Soraya had this event where they host a yoga session. It's a morning of wellness. So Soraya hosts it's in the middle of Denver, at Green Spaces. They host a yoga session. After the yoga session, there was like 6 to 8 vendors that people had pre-signed up for, and you get to spend time with that vendor. Soraya asked me to come in as one of those vendors. They were like, "I would love for you to do something in relation to the ancestor money." And I was like, "Wow, I would love that too. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I would love that." So Morgan's been at those spaces with me. So Morgan's done drawings for people in relation to if they want to get a tattoo later, but they get these beautiful drawings that Morgan makes space for, sigils. There's people who do readings there. There's someone I got last time I went, I got henna done. So she brings in Soraya these beautiful different offerings from people, and you just get this beautiful morning of movement and then this beautiful offering from whichever vendor you're part of.
Mm.
And when I asked my mother-in-law, I know we kind of sit with this, like, I think I'm going to do readings with it because I feel like I can read through them. Like, the people speak to me so deeply, these ancestors do. And I feel like I know what people need through the money. So I did a reading for her. And it felt like, wow, this is great. It's really, it's not light either. I don't think any of my divinational tools are. Like, if anyone talks about my oracle deck or my tarot deck, they're like, it's super blunt. It's going to tell you what's up and what you need to do to shift and how we can evolve, right? It's very honest. So money is the same. And I just stepped into that. So Soraya's event was the first time I ever did it, and it was beautiful. I loved giving these readings to people. What I generally do is we cleanse ourselves first, and there's a candle lit on the table. I give them an envelope with the money in it, and they take the money out and they shuffle the money. They pull out 3 bills, and I'm able to read to them what's going on and what they need through those 3 bills in relation to what the ancestors needed down here. And so they're doing that healing for them, the ancestor, and the whole community. And I also pull copies of those bills for them to take home if they choose that aspect of the reading. And so, what they do with those bills can vary. Like, I did one for my mother recently. I said mother, so let me clarify which mother. So not my mother-in-law, not my biological mom, but my mom who adopted me. So my mother here, who she lives out here in Boulder County, but she came to one of my market readings, and I did a reading for her. And 2 of the bills that she got were in relation to the medical field, and my mother is a doctor. So she got Henrietta Lacks, and then she got the Mothers of Gynecology. And so my mom said she's going to put it up on her bulletin board at work. So in her space at work, which it felt very aligned for her to be doing that. So people are going to use the money and do with the bills as they feel called to, which I love. But it's been such a beautiful offering that I've been able to give forth in this world. And I'm just very grateful that it came through and all became possible. It took a while for them to come to me because I was looking for an illustrator at first. And then my mother-in-law on Juneteenth one year, I told her I was so frustrated because like every illustrator that I was trying to get to do it just kept falling through. And she's like, "Why don't you just do it yourself?" And I was like, "Okay, I guess I will." So I started that Juneteenth to work on them, and yeah, they developed.
Wait, did you illustrate them all yourself?
Yes, I designed the bills myself.
Oh, well, And you, at first you were looking for someone else to design them, but then you decided,
Yes.
oh
At
yeah.
first, I was gonna bring in an artist. They were gonna design
Oh,
them, and so I had worked on quite a few of them. And then my mother-in-law's like, "I'd love to do this project with you. I'd love to join in." So then she stepped in, joined in, and she designed both the two bills for the ancestors, the general ancestor bills, and she
Mhm.
designed Madam C.J. Walker's bill.
Yes. Let me get my charger. Keep going.
keep going. Okay. Well, let's see. Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. So I guess I don't want to like draw too much out of you if it's like, but I'm curious about the part of the reading where like you read through that ancestors like gifts, but then also like the places where they did need healing and support and like how that comes through. Um, I don't know if there's anything that you feel like you
I
want.
mean, what I can say is, I think that going to my Substack, you can see all the bills. I have also what each intention behind the bills and the vibe of the bill is. So it talks a little bit about like why we chose that ancestor and what the vibe of the bill is. So if you wanted to know a little bit more in relation to like what that ancestor was about and what they were doing down here and why it would be important to even have them on this money, that is all all that's written out, and it's both on our website when you place orders for the money, and I have it on my Substack as well.
Kenda, did you want to add anything about the money or money readings or?
So I have not done the readings, but the money. So I had the brilliant idea, like, oh yeah, do them yourself. He's like, okay, well, help me. So I thought it was really cool. And I just want people to know that each note has a certain energy and care. Like everything that my daughter works on, her heart is into it. She is not, she's just doing it because she's doing it because you understand there's difference, and working on these two projects with her has been so enriching to me. And ancestor money, don't be afraid of it. Even if you're like, oh, I don't want to burn it, get it and carry it. Put it in your wallet. Place it on your altar. And really look at the monies. The money is very powerful. And I look forward to us making more money and really expanding this. And I just they're beautiful and they're not like people can buy ancestor money online. There's plenty of it, but when I tell you that each note is intentionally made, it's not like a stock picture and you write some on it and just print it. Everything from the colors, the wording, the sigils was from it was done with intention and good ones.
Yeah, no, it is like, I mean, to me, just energetically, it's so magnetizing because I feel like I'm very energetically sensitive. And like when your Substacks came through, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so special. Like this is really like energetically bright. And it is, yeah, I totally agree with you. The design is so amazing. Um, yeah, so we'll obviously link where people can find the money if they want to engage with it and get some. Um, I guess this is a good place to transition into. First, I just want to ask if there's anything else that you like want to circle back to and close out, like a dangling thread, or if there's anything that you wanted to share that we just didn't get around to. And then just slowly move into like how people can find you, like what offerings you have available, and that sort of thing.
I think I'm good, and like I think I covered everything's been covered, so I'm pretty happy. Yeah.
I could still keep talking to you, but another time. Yeah, this has been so amazing.
Yeah.
And then in relation to offerings, so I was like, obviously, I am an author. I have many children's books, which, I say picture books. I like picture books better because I don't feel like picture books are just for kids. And I'm gonna start working on it, but people keep saying that I need to create study guides for different ages for my books, which I'm gonna start working on because I feel like they can be accessible for preschoolers on a certain level, but they literally could be critiqued in universities on a different level. So that is what I'm going to start working on, really building that space out so people can access my books to the full intention that I created them with. Um, and then I would say you know, if I have events going on, whether they're virtual or they're in person in Colorado, I have them up on my website. So I try and do things. The next thing I'm really going to be doing is IACon. So I'll be down at IACon down in Denver. If anyone's out here, that's the next like space. I'll be offering ancestor money readings in person. And then I also am faculty at the, I always get this acronym wrong, S CBWI, the Children's Book Authors and Illustrators Organization, the Rocky Mountain branch. I am faculty for that. So I have 2 sessions that I'm hosting. And so if anyone feels called to join that, please come through. I would love to see you in the space and support you in your creative endeavors around picture books or books for kids. Doesn't have to be picture books because this includes all the way YA, all the different titles under the children's book realm. But if you are an author, illustrator, or both, come through. And the fall, I'm hearing the call ancestrally to start offering aquatic sound baths. So if that feels aligned to you, please come through and like join me in that elemental healing. And the big project overall, my overarching project is my publishing company. I am working with a publishing company and I'm structuring that. It's a digital publishing company in which every product that goes through the door will be in 3 formats. So you'll be able to access it in audio format, in a visual, so like a movie or animated, and as a ebook. So you can choose what format feels aligned to you and access any of the projects like that. So I am building that out and I have a GoFundMe if you want to support, but that is something that I am working and building and creating right now.
Oh my gosh. So I want to hear from you, Kenda, too, but also I just want to be like, there's so much that you've done because like you didn't even mention your tarot deck. Well, you did earlier in the conversation, but like, and then you actually have is it like 15 or 16 picture books out?
Yeah,
Or
that.
yeah. And
I
so
have two coming out this year. So one with my mother in love that came out this year. I have one in the fall, which is like if you liked seek and find books, like Where's Waldo? It's a seek and find book, right? It's diverse. I've never seen one that was not white centric or Eurocentric. So this is the first I've seen. And then next year in the later half of the year, like towards the end of the year, holiday time, I have a Kwanzaa book coming out. So that book is then those will be my traditional publishing releases that still are yet to come.
and can people find your books on your website as well?
Absolutely.
Yay. All right.
So, well, again, my name is Kenda Bell. I'm also known as Kenda Bell-Spruill on online. You can put Kenda Bell and you'll see my picture. So, of course, Saturday magic, a hoodoo story is what I am pushing and so involved in. And my next signing is going to be August the 3rd, Saturday, August the 3rd at Mahogany Books in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to be a part of Black Books Matter. So I am excited to talk about the you know the book, but I teach as I'm not just like, oh, it's a cute kids book. This book has so much depth that I hope that people get this book and they share this book. Um, my website is under construction, but you can find me and my services at www dot 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 pinsite com forward slash x slash Kenda Bell. One word. I know that's long, but yeah, and that's basically it for me right now. I am still I'm putting things in order for myself.
I feel like you need to talk about what you just did with your geniuses.
Oh my God. So yes, I was a part of storytellers, and um that was on stage where I had to write a piece on Black woman genius. And at first I thought it was going to be a really cool idea. I was like, oh, I can talk about Madam CJ or another famous person. And they told me I had to write it about about myself. And so I was like, oh my God, genius about me. And so I ended up having to pull out uh my genius of stuttering and how that is my super power activator. Um and that was the first time that I actually spoke about my stuttering in a public venue, and that that and that form. And you can find it on YouTube. It should be coming out soon. And it was actually five other women, and we shared our genius. And I'm still at 54 as a stutterer. I got so much out of it that I'm still growing from sharing that, because I'm not shy, as you probably can tell. And but the stuttering does give me a sense of shyness sometimes and awkwardness. And I was thankful to have the the opportunity to share that with people in a powerful way, and not like, oh, woe is me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll link that too. I think that's really beautiful. I also think that could be
Thank you, Nyasha.
a picture book about stuttering
Hmm.
as a superpower. I think that would empower a lot of
Hmm.
children. I don't know, just throwing that out there.
Oh
Um,
wow.
anyways, this was amazing. I am just so grateful I got to soak in your wisdom and genius and creativity and like indulge my curiosity. Thank you so much for letting me ask all my questions and like explore all the different paths. Um, yeah, I just really like from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for bringing your energy to my podcast and sharing it with the world. And I'm so excited to share this. And I just am so excited to know both of you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's been a
Yes,
beautiful
thank
space
you.
to be a part of.
Yes.